Now, both of those have allowed thousands of people to release their limiting beliefs, align their physical, emotional, and spiritual energy so that they can manifest their desired life. And her professional experience includes 15 years as a corporate executive working at senior management level, as well as an executive coach with clients worldwide.
Here's one of her comments I like. I'm continually curious about how people can be, do, and have all that they want in this life, myself included. This curiosity has led me to learn many disciplines and create my own Terara methodology for healing and coaching.
She continues, my practice is focused on the integration and systemization of all of these disciplines to help accelerate how you can live your life to the fullest. And I look forward to connecting with you. And we are looking so forward to connecting with you, Maryanne. Please tell us about the Terara methodology and how that came into being.
Sure, I'm happy to. So Terara was created on my way to San Diego, actually, where I believe you're filming from.
Yeah.
I was right about to run a workshop, and I realized I had these beginners in the workshop that didn't even know how to spell the word energy. I had people that had done a lot of energy work, and then I had masters of energy that had been on the journey for a long time. And I thought, how am I going to frame it up for the beginners and then for the ones that have been on a journey for a long time so that I could meet everyone where they are? So I sort of closed my eyes and I was trying to think of it. And then I got distracted and I thought, oh, let me just, go online. And I tried to use my computer, which wouldn't turn on. Then I tried to play a game on my phone, which wouldn't work. And then I tried to use the movie screen on the back of, the chair in front of you, and mine was broken. And I thought, okay, I clearly am not meant to use any electronics. Let me just close my eyes. And when I closed my eyes, all of a sudden I was being channeled this whole framework of how to start presenting the work that I'm doing. And out came from my guides, my spiritual guides. I work with a lot of ascended masters, and in this instance, I had the energy of brilliance and the crystalline people working with me. And out came this framework of, in order to really have true transformation in your life, you have to really work at 4 different levels. You have to take care of the physical, meaning the physical body and what energy gets stuck within the body and what beliefs do we carry around that energy, or what trauma we suffered where we literally stuffed it all in our body. Because if we have energetic blocks within our body, we cannot receive the flow from the universal energy or from our soul's energy. So that was one level. And then they said, okay, now we're going to the emotional level. And on the emotional level is where all of our thoughts, our actions, our belief systems gets looked at. Because every thought has an energetic frequency to it. Every belief we have sort of creates a path for us. And most often, many of our beliefs were established before we were 7 years old. So we perceive the world through a youngster's eye. And so a lot of times our belief systems are really limiting, especially when we want to have a big life or an engaged life or a spiritual life even. And then they said, okay, so you have the physical, the emotional, now let's look at the energetics. And the energetics is really around the space between the physical body and the soul connection and what lives in the energy. Because we create, like, that energetic field is where the creation is possible for us. It's where what we want to manifest shows up first there. It's where health and illness shows up. Like, everything is in that energetic field. So we have to look at it, mind it, and care for it. And then the 4th level is the spiritual level. So how do we connect with soul? How do we use our intuitive knowing more? How do we do our soul's purpose and live life from that place? Because that's when we're going to feel the most fulfilled on our journey. So that is what Terara really represents. How do you transform your whole life, both energetically and emotionally? So this is where healing work, energy healing work, marries with coaching work to create what we want to live into.
I think that is brilliant. One of the top 3 questions that people ask, you already covered. And people always want to know, what's my life purpose? Mm-hmm. How do I find my life purpose? Mm-hmm. And I believe you're one of the few where you're actually talking about connecting in with your soul to get your purpose through your soul, rather than just focusing on your material life. So can you explain more about that?
Combination of both, because we are living a physical experience, so we have to take in our physical, but we are getting guided. We are getting our opportunities. Our potential comes from spirit. So if we leave out what spirit wants to deliver to us or wants us to experience here, we miss a big possibility for us to step into these more enriched lives. So how I look at it is I do a lot of the purpose process that we have through our experiences. And then I will connect people with their souls. And we look for messages from the soul, because the soul is always interested in talking to us and helping to guide us. And so I do it one of 2 ways. One way is through the journey of the Terara Healing School, where I'm teaching people how to heal themselves. I teach them how to use their intuition. How do you engage with your soul? How do you connect and hear your messages on a daily, weekly basis? And part of that process is connecting to get what your soul purpose is. And so the soul is very clear about why it came here to have this lifetime and what it wants to experience. But our soul also recognizes that when we come into our human form, we have free will. So when I develop the soul purpose with an individual, it's really a collaboration of what they want, what they've lived into, and what are their possibilities that the soul is showing them that they can go after and do.
I'd love to have some examples and some experiences perhaps you've had with people and what's gone on and those kinds of things. People love to hear the experiences.
Sure. It's so funny because I just started a new program a week ago. And so I have all these newbies, and they range anywhere. Like they've either done a lot of energy work, or their intuition is operating, or they don't know how to spell the word intuition. And I work with them first on the physical level to say, we have all lived our soul purpose from time to time. And usually when we live our soul purpose from time to time, it is those times in our lives that we feel the happiest, that we feel the most fulfilled.
It's true.
Because when we are aligned with soul, everything is possible, and we live into those possibilities. So the first part of the journey is the storytelling. So I have people that are so worried because some of them are moms, and they're like, well, I haven't really done anything big in my life. And I'm like, yes, you have. One is having children, raising the next generation of beings is so important. So what in those experiences have really created for you what you desire? And then the other is when I connect in with the soul, I will have souls that will say to me, here's 1, 2, 3 things that they're here for. Here's something that they came in for. So one of my clients really at this point wanted a deep relationship. She was doing her work. She was following her soul's purpose. But the area of relationship wasn't happening. She had one relationship after another, and she just couldn't create a solid relationship, a long-term solid relationship. And she's like, I am so sick of this. So I said, well, let's go up and talk to your soul and see whether it's part of your purpose. And so we connected with our soul, and our soul says, yes, this lifetime is all about experiencing many, many different relationships. And we're like, oh, bingo. And that's what you've been doing. So then I asked the soul, well, does she still need to? Did you get enough experience? Did you have the experiences that you wanted? And the soul said, oh, yeah, we've got enough experience. We could check that off. If she wants to stay in a long-term relationship, it's good with us. And shortly thereafter, she met somebody, and they've been married for almost 8 years now, and very happy. And this is how, when we connect, and if we've already fulfilled something in our soul purpose, we're complete. The soul says, yeah, we're done. That contract's done. We can move on. Or sometimes the soul raises the stakes. So that was my situation. I knew nothing about this work. I came from a very traditional family. I grew up on the East Coast. It was all about degrees and science and what you were doing. I worked in high-tech firms. And one day I remember standing in the front of my house saying, God, I have everything. I have a great husband. We travel a lot. I have a nice home. I have a great job. I loved where I was working. And I was feeling empty inside, and I did not know why. That there was just something that felt missing. And I almost felt embarrassed to share with anyone that I was feeling this way, because how do you say, oh, on one hand, on the outside, my life looks so great, but on the inside, I was feeling lost and empty. And I met a person who talked to me about a spiritual journey. And I said, oh, no, I'm not religious. And she goes, no, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spirituality. This is how disconnected I was back then. And I went on the spiritual journey. And like all things, when you are ready to open up, when you're ready to receive, oh my God, the teachers come. And I was working in corporate America, and I met a corporate shaman. And then after that, I met another teacher. And so I was just blessed with amazing teachers that came in to show me the path back to what my soul purpose was. So what was so interesting was I had my soul purpose at that time, but it wasn't complete. My purpose was to creatively create destiny. And I actually didn't really even know what that meant. All I knew was I loved to create. Like I created in work, I created in my relationships, I created in play. So I love to create. And it was creating things that have not been in place. And it was 2 years after when I went on my spiritual journey that one day I was meditating and the information popped in, and it was like to heal by healing, teaching, and guiding. And I thought, oh, well, there's no way I'm going to be a healer because I hate hospitals. I hate blood. Like in my mind back then, that's all I knew healers were like. So I thought, but I can teach and I can guide. So I went along and did some coaching work and taught and guided that way. But little by little, when I was working with people, I would always hear these voices telling me to do different things. And at first I would try to ignore them, like, I'm not going to do this. And I'll give you an experience of one that happened so long ago, but it was so impactful that I never doubted my intuition again. I was working with a colleague who had hired me on the side to do this coaching, healing stuff. And at that time, I didn't even know what to call the healing. I just said, oh, different things show up, and if you're willing, I'll share it with you. So this information showed up, and I kept getting the words, tie your hands up. And I'm like, I'm not going to tie your hands up. Like, that's craziness. But the words kept coming in louder and louder, tie your hands up, tie your hands up, tie your hands up. And I'm like, oh my God, like she's going to think I'm crazy. But I cannot ignore it anymore because it's so loud in my head and I can't even hear what she's saying to me. So I finally asked her, I said, hey, do you mind? I keep getting this message that I'm supposed to tie your hands up and I have no idea why or whatever the purpose of it, but if you're willing. And so she said, okay. And so now I'm like panicked and I'm running around trying to find, what do you tie someone's hands up? I found Christmas ribbon, right? Like Christmas ribbon that you wrap presents with. And I'm like, this is crazy. So she puts her hands together and I wrap it and I make a bow, right? Because I'm using Christmas ribbon. I don't really know. All of a sudden, she starts like sobbing uncontrollably and then convulsing. And now, meanwhile, I'm sitting next to her thinking, oh, dear God, what is going on? I don't even, like, I'm not a trained professional therapist or anything. And I just kept praying over her, like, oh, dear God, you gave me this information. Like, just make sure she's okay. Eventually, she comes out of it, and I hear the words, tell her she can untie herself now. Mm-hmm. She has the power to untie herself. So I share that with her. And, you know, another round of crying and convulsions. And, you know, I'm thinking she's going to call the cops on me at this point. And she comes out of it. So she unties herself. She comes out of it. This went on for about 35 minutes. And I said, are you okay? Let me get you water. And anyways, we take care of her physical needs. And she said, I never told you this, but she was held against her will for 3 days and raped. And this process, and whoever the person was had tied up her hands. So the journey of having her hands tied up brought it all up for her because she kept repressing it. And then when I said, you can now untie your hands, it released this energy, and she really was able to step into an empowered place again and feel like she was in control of her life. So the healing was profound. It was beyond anything that my logical mind could have made up or could have stepped her through a process. And I thought in that moment, as I saw this woman after that experience, she kept coming back, which was a good sign. And her life really started to flourish, and she started to date again. And it was just amazing. And I thought to myself, okay, that is spirit leading me. So I'm going to trust when this information drops in, and I'm going to take the person on the journey. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
How amazing. I just feel how like that process of honoring when you're getting that message to tie up the hands, the honoring and the gentleness with which you did that, and the safe place that you provided for her. I could feel that in the storytelling that you shared with us. I would also love to know, do you also work with children as well as adults?
The children that I work with tend to be through the parents. So I will work with the children of my clients because I know that the parents have a good framework to hold this work within.
Perfect.
And then I will definitely work with the kids. And then sometimes I work through the parents to their children. If they're under the age of 16, I will work that way because children are coded into their parents. And so I can work through that energy as long as I have consent. And we've seen some remarkable changes in kids. And kids today, where I work most often is kids today are so open, where in my generation, when people told me this stuff, it came easily. Like I started channeling one time under a tree. I didn't even know what I was doing. It was just like this thing came over me and took my voice, and it was almost like I was aware of it, but I didn't want to stop it, but it was so strange, and it freaked out myself and two of my friends that were meditating. And what I noticed today is the kids are coming in with these gifts and they're wide open to it, and they see ghosts and they see spirit guides, and they're still connecting with the angels. And so sometimes for parents, that's very disorienting to them. So it's almost like I have to help the parents to catch up so that they could be a safe and strong supporter of the child who comes in very opened.
In your work, do you see that do you believe we're receiving a new generation, perhaps of even humanity, that is more aware or will grow up to be more aware?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I saw it with my children. So I have triplets. They're 21 years old. And I remember my son used to, like when he was 6 years old, he's blah, blah, blaring away with that little baby talk. And then after a few minutes, I was feeding the girls. And after a few minutes, I'm like, oh my God, he's having a conversation. And so I tap into my son, who's tapped into the spirit that I didn't even notice in the corner of the room. And there